Happy New Year, everybody. For most of 2025, I wasn't sure if I was actually going to be making this video. I've mentioned multiple times over the course of the year that it felt dry for movies. Everything coming out was either good, but flawed, or just flawed. It definitely has more to do with my awareness and taste, but no matter what, it wasn't happening for me. Luckily, I held out hope, and within the last months of the year, lots of quality stuff dropped, and my end of the year list was back on the menu. Still, I've decided to shorten this year's list to just 5 selections instead of 10, because I really wouldn't have enough to say about spots 6 to 10. A couple of honorable mentions would be Mission Impossible 8 and the documentary Becoming Led Zeppelin, both of which were sweet theater experiences early in the year. Let's begin the true list with one you expected to see here. Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler, was probably the film that made the biggest splash in the first half of 2025. With iconic stars attached like Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, and Michael B. Jordan again, it was obviously going to get some attention, but it really blew up due to the conversation-starting statements it made on art, race, religion, and how they intersect. The visual style of this movie is also very captivating. Set in the 1930s South, it's got a grizzled, blisteringly warm look, sweaty and dimmed most of the time. It certainly got down pat the vibes of an old western, which makes the first act particularly satisfying to watch. The Smokestack twins as protagonists are almost immediately separated through Smoke's collectedness and Stack's impulsivity and headstrong nature, yet both retain their charisma in different ways. Michael B. Jordan differentiates his body language and expressions for Smoke and Stack so that you could tell who's who even if they were wearing the same colors and stayed completely silent. The main reason Sinners isn't any higher for me, like it would be for many, is because of the main plot line in which vampires invade the Smokestack twins' juke joint. It doesn't really work for me. I understand the symbolism of the vampires quite literally infecting and taking over a black-owned establishment, but I can't help but feel that the movie would have kept its earthy, gritty tone better with actual human villains. The vampire makeup and CGI for Remick, though obviously impressive, is especially out of place, since he looks a bit like a Stranger Things villain dropped in the middle of the agricultural South. The pacing for this part wasn't the best either, given that most of the supporting cast of characters ends up dying so close together that their deaths don't feel remarkable. Sometimes I actually forget that Pearline died at all in this movie because it happened so quickly. So, though I do believe that this movie could have been an absolute masterpiece in a different form, it still deserves this top 5 spot. Scenes and even entire acts from this film are some of the best of the year. And that one sequence, and you know what I'm talking about, needed all the praise it got. Sinners celebrates merging cultures, but never colonizing them. Okay, let's get something out of the way. This movie is schmaltzy, it's corny, it's soap opera-like. There's a lot of people that don't enjoy that, and I get it. I also get the annoyance with the Ron Swanson voiceover going on the whole movie. I definitely disliked it to begin with, and even though I got used to it throughout the film, it always seemed like the plot was trying to explain itself to me. It is a bit of a mark against the movie. But, if you have a heart, and it wasn't at least a little warmed after watching this, that is shocking. The Life of Chuck is super sweet. It's about looking up even when things seem bad, and feeling free in what should be a stressful situation. The second part of The Life of Chuck, which is divided into 3 parts, is one of the most freeing and smile-inducing things I've seen this year. It's simple as can be, and that's what I kind of respect about it. It comes off as upbeat and unbothered, and the best creators are often those who are creating for themselves, not fearing what an audience will think. With its other parts, it gets deeper. The big twist of the movie is that Chuck, the central character, had been shown how his life would end as a child, a terrifying thought no matter what the outcome. If you die, poor and alone, that's unbelievably depressing, and going on seems pointless. If you die successful, you'll be trying to achieve that your whole life, and it's always going to be disappointing because you know that it's coming. Chuck's ability to keep going and discover new parts of himself in the journey along the way is utterly inspirational, no matter how melodramatic it might be. Hell, I like melodrama as long as it justifies itself. This movie would be too simple if it wasn't for the first act, which plays out completely differently to the rest. It's a sci-fi apocalyptic short story with tons of creative elements and mysterious hints. Its connection to the rest of the story is the puzzle that allows the film to stay in my mind months later. If that aspect wasn't there, I would have thought, that was nice, and moved on with my life. But when all these pieces come together, and Tom Hiddleston learns how to dance like a motherfucker, it earns a top 5 spot. Definitely the nicest watch of the year. Let's get more depressing now. So there's a pretty big gap from the last placement to here. These top 3 movies are what I would consider the absolute centerpieces of the year. Landmark experiences that got me invested in the cast and crew behind them. First off is sentimental value, which there is an argument for being the best acted film of 2025. The main reason I chose to give this one a watch was Stellan Skarsgård, a man who has made his ability known for decades now, and on top of that, Renate Ransva, who I saw getting massive praise for her role here. Both leads present in an understated fashion, but still cover a variety of moods and subjects. They approach longing, fear, self-hatred, and more without ever making a big statement out of it. Near the end of the film, in one of its best scenes between Ransva's Nora and her sister Agnes, we learn something tragic and integral to Nora's character and are allowed to simply sit with it as the sisters speak and embrace calmly and quietly. They begin to understand each other throughout the runtime because all of them have similarities. The thematic cohesion is wildly impressive. All the characters are either running from their past or chasing it. Gustav Skarsgård's character spends the entire film recreating, in a sense, his mother's traumatic suicide. Agnes has a subplot in which she researches that same woman, her grandmother's, life as an anti-Nazi protester. Even Elle Fanning's Rachel, a sweet, naive American actress, finds herself being questioned about her past roles in more typical movies when interviewing about Gustav's film. The history is always there. The approach is what separates them. The most striking part of the whole movie was definitely a sequence during the second act in which Gustav and Nora's faces dissolve in and out of one another, simplistically yet mystifyingly showing how they compare. To this day, I still don't know how this sound and image marvel was pulled off, but that only makes it more memorable. If anyone out there is interested by my description of this film, please check it out and others like it. I'd recommend His Three Daughters and A Real Pain, which both have a comparable level of somberness and familial heart. So, here's the other one you expected to be here. Despite it not being at the very top of my list, One Battle is the movie of the year, no doubt about it. In a year full of politically charged releases, this is the most politically charged. In my initial review for it, I criticized this movie for making its villains too outwardly and over-the-top evil, but even just in the time since then, it's become clear that there are people as psychopathic and maskless as Sean Penn in this film, and I'm not surprised that people jumped at the chance to watch them be beaten up for 2 hours. One battle after another is purely thrilling. The action is creative and, as the title suggests, non-stop. It's right up in your face, something lead actor Leonardo DiCaprio understands, so he decides to get just as up in your face to match the vibe. Bob is so stress-inducing and messy, but on the other hand, he's hilarious and resourceful. Definitely one of the best protagonists of the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if Leo scored Best Oscar for this role. What sends this movie soaring, though, is easily the technical aspects. The choreography makes such great use of space, most especially towards the middle when Bob travels through buildings and streets with Benicio del Toro's sensei character. The camera control fits the tone. If a scene of action is meant to be exciting, the camera stays smooth and rigid, swaying through settings like it's traversing a level in a video game. If an action scene is meant to be more stressful and dangerous, the camera shakes so violently that you, as the viewer, feel a need to escape. All throughout this, Johnny Greenwood's plucking piano runs rampant against your ears. The imperfection only increases the tension. Bob could miss that shot or that jump, because he actually does sometimes. He's not immune to failure. This movie follows many perspectives. Those who want to make a change, those who've had their will to fight broken down and live subserviently, and those who just want to live their lives and find themselves dragged in nonetheless. It's unabashedly angry and undeniably impressive. I still have issues with the first act, which I covered in my full review, which is why this misses the top spot. This is a heartbreaking movie. I've seen A24 slice-of-life dramas like Aftersun before, which have been equally as heartbreaking, but they were always missing some extra level of depth, and I found it with If I Had Legs, in which a mother cares for her disabled child. The pure intensity and dread of nearly every scene in this movie is palpable. Every stranger encountered by Rose Byrne's Linda is almost instantly hostile because of her high-strung nature, which they interpret as a slight. We always expect that if somebody is in a mood, it's directly related to us, and we don't want to compromise our convenience for someone else's comfort. These people's reactions aren't unrealistic. Linda is imperfect, and without insight into her life, she could be seen as overbearing or self-centered. There's a reason that her child is out of frame during the entire movie until the very end. She still lacks the ability to focus completely on being that girl's mother. But can you really blame her? She can barely sleep. She's dealing with clients as a therapist, one of whom leaves her own child behind. And there's a gaping hole in her house's ceiling to signify the gaping hole in her own life. Linda becomes increasingly frustrated at the world around her, but while she does make this clear, she's too reserved to explode on any person, so you see it boil up in her in exhales and forced smiles. Rose Byrne wears a mask that is purposely easy to see through, and it's tragic. What makes this film the best of the year, though, is the direction by Mary Bronstein, which adds the layers I needed. The ethereal view of the hole in Linda's ceiling, as if there's some other world up there, and the rushing waves pushing Linda back when she tries to escape by suicide at the end of the film. This ending, by the way, is fantastic, and easily my favorite of the year. As a parent, no matter how painstakingly difficult Linda's life may be, she lacks the physical capability to leave everything behind. She knows she has unfinished business and the responsibility to protect her child. It's a job that doesn't end, and the personal inspiration shines through. There's a reason that many of the characters in this movie don't have names. Even Linda is barely referred to by her name. It's because this isn't just her story. It's Mary Bronstein's story, and thousands of other young women's stories. If there's one thing I took away from this movie, it's to treat single mothers with more respect. So that's it for the list, but just like any other year, my exploration of 2025 never ends. There are countless films I missed, like Sound of Falling, and some I was looking forward to that got pushed back, like Jim Jarmusch's Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, and Kristen Stewart's Chronology of Water. As time goes on, you find that no year really was a dud, and that gems hide in the strangest places. Thank you for checking out this video, and if you enjoyed it, either leave a like and subscribe, or maybe just give my 2024 ranking a watch, since that one was even more jam-packed. It's a new year, and there's many more discoveries to make. See you in the next review. Bye now.